fight. We don't have to kill. Everybody in the whole wide world really just needs to chill. No, we don't have to fuss, no, we don't.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Just Chill with Oliver George. We are episode 29 now. The light is on. The plexiglass is up. My dad's got a mask on. We're good to go. But before we get to the guests, I want to remind you guys that if you're watching this on YouTube and you want the audio-only version, it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And vice versa. If you're listening to me but you want to check out what the studio looks like, come see us on YouTube. Wherever you are, please subscribe. It really does mean a lot to me. Numbers have been going up lately, and it's just really warmed my heart. Finally, if you want to contact the show, it's justchillpodcasting@gmail.com. Now, let's not waste any more time. I'm super excited to have this man in the studio, Mr. Darren Frost.
I'm here. I'm used to plexiglass.
Comedian extraordinaire. You're kind of a Canadian comedy legend, I would say. You've been around for ages. You're a veteran.
I would definitely say veteran. I don't know about legend per se, but definitely veteran. Yeah, 30 years almost.
Well, I mean, hey, you can only stick around that long if you're doing something right. That's my theory.
Or doing something so badly that they have no other place for you. So,
yeah.
Yes.
Well, they can try to stick you in a hole, but no cage can contain you, I wouldn't think.
Well.
Russell Peters called you one of the edgiest comics in Canada, which I would say, based on what I've seen from your material, is definitely true.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few guys that kind of throw that gauntlet down. There's guys like Derek Sagan, and there's guys like Jason Rouse and Aaron Berg and Kenny Robinson, and a few others. But yeah, I think I'm probably one of the edgiest, if not the edgiest. It really depends on what tour I'm doing and what I'm throwing. So my last special, I was listening to it because I had to get ready for a show, first one in 9 months, and even I was like surprised at some of the things I said. I was like, ugh. I don't know if I could even pull that off anymore. Where I had the confidence even 7 months ago,
And that's story yelling?
Yeah, it's story yelling, yeah.
So that's your 7th independent Canadian comedy release.
Yes, and I released it on March 1st, and I was supposed to do one last loop around the sun, tour of Canada, and anywhere else I could in 1 year, and then COVID hit, and now I'm kind of restarting it now, but even still, it's very piecemeal, because it's only a few shows here and there. But yeah, I originally had a plan, a big 1 year kind of thing.
Yeah, that's impeccable timing, to say the least. I read an interview you had done with Danny. Shout out to Danny, because he's awesome at connecting me with cool people. But you guys, even then, were talking about how the world was kind of ending. And you were like making jokes about, I might catch coronavirus, but clearly didn't realize, the level it was going to very quickly develop into.
Yeah.
So, what was that like for you then, to have to kind of shelve everything when you were probably so pumped to really get out on the road?
Well, I mean, for me, it was kind of discouraging because I'm in the twilight of my career. I'm not a fool. I'm not an idiot. Energy is a motherfucker. So I don't have as much energy as I did, say, 10, 15 years ago. So I did put a lot of time and thought into, I've got one loop around left. That doesn't mean I was quitting. That just means I'm never going to tour like this again. I would do Weekend Warrior stuff, but one big tour, out west, out east, Nunavut, like Yellowknife, everywhere.
Oh, shit.
Do it all. Do it one last time. Fuck everyone if they don't like it, and fuck them if they do. Kind of attitude. So I did put a lot into it, and then it all just kind of capsized. And these are first world problems. I mean,
of course,
my kids are still fed. I still have a job doing cartoon voices. I still am making a little bit of money. A lot of my friends don't. So I don't try to dwell on, well, that's kind of shitty, all that energy, when it's just energy.
Yeah. That's a healthy attitude to have during the pandemic, for sure.
People are losing their fucking jobs and lives, and I just can't go to Yellowknife, boo-hoo.
Yeah, but that being said, I mean, a lot of people from the pandemic are already spun out into kind of depressive states.
Sure.
So I could see that if that was happening to you potentially as a normal person, to then like tag on, and my shit got canceled, like it could be a little extra weighty, but nevertheless, we're on the end of maybe not, it's not over, but you're starting to get back out there at least. I know you're doing
some dates. And, I always played the idea that I'm cursed anyways. It's been my angle for about 10, 15 years now. So how much more cursed can I be than release an album and then a pandemic stops me,
True.
I can always use that energy and anger. And as, someone famous once said, anger is an energy, and I believe in it.
Who said that?
Johnny Rotten.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, one thing I wanted to say about the new album was that I thought it was really cool that you just put it out for free.
Yes.
That's just a super rad move, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, at that time, my attitude was like, I don't really, even though I've made money off my albums and DVDs, I don't really do it for the money. So at that point, I'm like, everybody's stuck inside. Life is shit. It's bad.
Yeah.
You wanted to escape for an hour? I'll write another hour if I was to do it. It's not that much skin off my back. And so I did put it out for free. It is out on YouTube and a few other places. And I also put it on my USB stick. So people who buy my whole career, which I'm sure we may get into later, also has a copy of it. So
Nice.
I've always given away a lot of stuff. A
Well,
lot.
it's a good way to build a fan base because, I mean, not everyone has the money necessarily to pay for a Crave subscription or whatever it might be, you know?
Right. And also my attitude is I'll just write more material. If I give it away or get it out there, it forces me to keep doing it.
Fair.
I have to write more material because I can't rely on something everybody's already heard.
Yeah. So you're at Yucks Ottawa this weekend from
My first show
yesterday
in
till
9 months.
That was the first
Last
one. Okay,
night,
that's what I was going to
first
ask
one,
you.
Yeah.
So
It was.
what do you like behind the plexiglass? We've talked about that with other comics.
You know, for 30 years I've asked for protection from a crowd, and now I finally got it. That's my attitude. Now, if anybody whips something at me, it's not going to hit me. If they're going to charge me, they got to go through glass. It ain't going to happen, so I can say whatever I want.
I'm going to have to jump ahead then because I had that way down here, but I saw a
Sure.
video of you getting fucking pelted with like a glass or something?
It was like a scotch tumbler glass, you know, those thick
it looked
bottom glass.
fucking rough, dude.
It was tough. It hurt, and it people think it's just a little cup that got thrown at me. It was, you know, a hard glass.
Oh, yeah. It looked like you got winded instantly.
Yeah.
You just keeled over.
Yeah, and I went down for a minute, bent over, and then I said, look, I'm in a show. I got to keep going. And the club did nothing about it. They weren't really even kicked out. They walked out like they fucking owned the place. And to me, that's Canadian comedy. It's like even the crowd can attack a performer, and they're still like, well, they got a big bar tab.
That's bullshit. I'll fucking link that video when at this point in
Sure.
the podcast because I think people should see it. You can tell even just from the ambient conversation that's happening at the time that you're saying fucked up stuff, but it's basically like some dude gets mad after heckling and causing bullshit.
Yes.
And you kind of say something that leads into like, I fucked your mother kind of shit, which is like...
Well, so let me give you a bit of a backtrack.
Yeah,
You're going to link
please.
the thing. So what happened is it was an X-rated show. When I do an X-rated show, I force clubs to put up warnings. So it's like it literally says X-rated, you will be offended.
No
I don't
refunds,
like X-rated,
yeah.
but at least it gives someone an idea of some fucked up shit's going to go down. And so, like I said last night, people think they're going to see cock, then they see me and they're like, I hope he just talks about his cock. But X-rated gives that kind of idea of it's something different.
Yeah.
So if you're choosing to come through that door, you're going to hear fucked up shit. Now, this happened at about the 35-minute mark of a set where I'd already made fun of 9/11. I'd already made fun of cancer. I'd already made fun of AIDS. I already made fun of many things that people would get upset with, and these people stayed and liked it up to that point. The second that they heckled me, when they already just did a rant about don't heckle me,
Yeah.
and they're doing it to fuck with me, I then flip it on them.
What kind of heckle was it?
I literally
Or, I
said,
guess-
at one point I said, you know, you don't control the show. I control the show.
Yeah.
I'm not a dancing fucking monkey up here. I control the show. And I literally go, ooh, ooh, ooh. I ain't doing that. So then the guy goes, do the monkey, do the monkey. So he's literally calling me on what I just said.
Yeah, he's challenging you.
He's challenging
Yeah.
me. So then I said, okay, you know, this isn't a choose your own adventure story where I turn to page 57, I fuck your mother. It's not a great joke. It's a hacky kind of line. I have
Whatever,
to
though.
choose, you know, fuck your mother. It's a fuck your mother joke, but it's in the moment.
You got to put him in his place.
Put him in his place, and then he got pissed off because I guess his mother was dead.
Yeah.
Like I knew.
Yeah,
like,
you're not
I
fucking
care.
psychic.
Like I fucking care
Yeah.
even at that point. At that point, I'm like, if I knew his mother was dead, I would never have said that. But
Yeah.
because I don't know and I don't have to know and shouldn't know, that's on him for heckling during an X-rated show.
True.
It's
I
going to
agree
get
fully.
down to some base bullshit, you know, sucking dick joke probably.
Yeah.
That's what it was, and that's what it is. And he didn't like it, and what happens with booze and men, they can't handle the word fight. They escalate it to violence, and that's what happened. And then you see the video, and it's pretty awkward to watch.
Well, and the cool thing was that apparently you still did like 13 minutes and
Yeah, I
closed the
didn't
show.
stop. I didn't fucking stop the show. I could have.
You know how many people would have walked off after
Of course,
that?
I was in pain. You know, what you don't know is I had about the size of a grapefruit, like bruise
Just
on
a
my
welt,
chest
yeah.
for about a week that I actually could feel it, and I was in pain.
And you couldn't like take pictures or something and hold it against the club in some way?
Well, you know,
I don't know. That seems
at
kind
the
of
end
like...
of the day, this is kind of like an act of God. You can't foresee this happening. What I didn't like is they didn't escort him out.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's your
They
argument right
should
there.
have escorted them out. And this club is no longer around anymore. Yeah. But even up until the person who owned the club passed away, they still blamed me for taking it to that level because the words I used. And any comedy club that says the words that a comic uses is justification for violence are fucking cunts.
Yeah, you should not be
are
justifying
fucking cunts.
Putting your performers in danger like that. Yeah, no, I agree.
You know, I defend comics I don't like. I defend comics that I don't like what they talk about.
Yeah.
But when they're on stage, that's the freedom that I give them.
Yeah.
Someone can dislike it and even heckle, which I don't agree with, but okay, that's within the realm. The second you take it to violence, we're done.
No. It's supposed to be fun. Jesus Christ. Like,
right.
No, that's just kind of also the culture we're living in right now, too, right? I mean, a comic of your nature must be kind of having extra bullshit thrown at you, given the type of material you try to approach, you know?
And I give them a warning. Don't go to the haunted house and complain that the bad man scared you.
Yeah, exactly.
We live in a world where on a phone you can look up clips of me. You can look up anything you want. Do
your fucking research.
You can do a little bit of research. It takes 30 seconds. If you're expecting it to be Seinfeld with F-bombs, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone. I'm always going to be a fringe comic. I'm never going to play to thousands. I get that. I'm in the twilight of my career. I just want to do a couple suck and fuck jokes to pay my rent and feed my kids. That's it now.
No, that's fair. I mean, and it's not like you're trying to deceive people. If they did any sort of research, they would see it's very clear.
Right.
So I think that's part of that mentality that there is right now. It's like the people who want to come to shows and they're going there like trying to get offended or they're looking. Well, what's the point?
They don't do research, or they do research. They know they're not going to like it. They still come. They still pay. They still sit down. They don't like the show, and then they write a Yelp review. They're fucking pussies.
Yeah.
Find some other hobby that's going to make you feel good about yourself. You know what?
Well, it's like, don't you have anything better to do?
Band I don't like, sitting in the front row and giving them the finger the whole show.
Yeah.
Who wins? The band. They get the fee.
Yeah, exactly. You're still buying the ticket to do that. Yeah. And then you're ruining the show for all the other people that liked it.
People don't care about.
No, of course not. I mean, there's got to be a limit, I suppose, at some point if you're like sacrificing goats or something.
100%.
Like, you know, but
100%.
But what you're doing, that's an interesting thing that I took away from your material. I mean, like I said, I was aware of some of your stuff, but I dug a lot deeper in research for this episode, and I found that of course, you're pushing the line, pushing the envelope. You have very dark, taboo sort of humor, but there's this innocence you carry with yourself, in my opinion. Of course, that's just my opinion, but I never felt like you were being malicious just for the sake of being malicious. Right. It's very evident that it's in jest, you know?
Right.
And there was the one I watched, you had like a turning point where you literally like did a bunch of pretty racy shit, and then you asked the audience, like, we're going to do a vote. Do you guys want to go bananas here, or do you want to stay kind of, you know, safer? And of course, everybody cheers, and then you proceed to tell a story about a baby getting fucked by a dog.
To death, yeah. To death, yeah.
To death, I should, yeah. But I don't know, man. It's context. That's what we're lacking so much these days.
What happens is I started doing this vote years ago because you can do some tester jokes to see what the crowd really wants. And then I do this so-called vote because then I can do whatever I want. And if they don't like it, I'm like, look, you asked me to fall farther down the rabbit hole.
Exactly, yeah.
You know,
you're somewhat culpable here. Yeah,
you're culpable. And you made a decision to come to my show. You walked through a door that had a sign. I've now asked you how far you want it to go. How much more can I possibly give you for a rope to hang yourself with? Yeah. But the problem is alcohol.
Yeah.
People get drunk and they don't have the same ability to make decisions when they don't drink.
So they just woo.
And that's, yeah. And then 3 minutes in, a baby's, what? And
but it's weird because you told that joke, and again, I never felt like there was anything sinister about it. Like,
it's a news story. I can show you the link where everything I said is in a newspaper.
See, I was hoping it was made up, honestly.
It's not made up
because it's such a fucked up story.
That's the other problem. People come and see me, they hear fucked up shit, and they think I make stuff up to make it fucked up.
Well, I wouldn't mind because some people can do that and it still works, and it's like whatever. Yeah, exactly.
It's an important factor in comedy.
Yeah,
but I could show you links where it's like everything I said is there.
That's so much more horrifying.
And that's why it is horrifying.
Yeah.
And people get upset, but I'm like, I'm not doing anything that a newspaper hasn't already presented.
Yeah.
I just added the element of what I thought would happen after the story is over.
Yeah.
But the initial story is horrifying. And that bit, just so you understand, took 15 years.
Of just perfecting it.
Of perfecting it. 15 years. The number of times a guy I tour with, Kenny Robinson, told me, you got to drop that
he's
bit.
great.
It's not funny. That bit's not funny. Crowds don't like it. I'm like, Kenny, this is my Rubik's Cube. I'm fucking doing this bit. I'm going to figure out a way for this bit to work. It may take me a long time, but then once I got it and I've got it on some kind of DVD or special, I don't ever have to do it again. And I did it last night and it was okay, but that special that I recorded, all the things lined up, and it's a 7 out of 10. It's never going to be a 10 out of 10 bit, but I got it to a 7, and I was happy.
You're happy with where it's at. Yeah. That's awesome. That's dedication, to say the least, because a lot of people, if something doesn't work, 5, 10 times, they're going to cut the cord. But that's...
If you're going to be in this for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, in any facet of show business, you better learn how to do this for yourself.
Yeah.
Because in the end, you're not doing it for anyone else. You may think you are, but longevity, you're doing it for yourself. So that means I'm going to bomb, but I know, but by bombing, I'm going to figure out ways to bob and weave to get that material to be good.
Yeah.
And then I get it to good, and then I can move on. That's what I like doing. I got into comedy for that reason, for turning my fucked up thoughts into an ability to make people laugh and get a
bring it into
reaction.
something positive.
That's why I do it. And that's why even 30 years in, I'm still trying to remember that and keep to that path.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think that, any comic who bombs, they're going to get more of a sort of an armor, hopefully, unless they quit completely. But if you get back at it. But by the nature of your type of material, I think that's even more heightened, because you're more likely to bomb in a lot of situations, so to speak, just because of, or you're riding the line of risk a lot higher.
I have not performed in 9 months for a reason. There's park shows, there's outdoor shows. My material is not appropriate for a park and most outdoor shows. If it's a backyard and it's contained,
it's
fine.
Too open,
That's different. But for just people walking by to hear my material, there's other comics that think, hey, fuck it, it's freedom of speech. To me, and I have kids and I have a family.
Yeah, you're like, I don't want to scream cunt in the park at 9 p.m. or whatever.
There's a family.
Exactly. I think that's respectable.
That family can leave. Yes, they can. But I also can be like, you know what? I'm going to choose the hills I want to die on here.
Yeah. That's smart as fuck, too. And Yuck Yuck's dungeon-esque sort of basement is perfect for your...
Basement comedy club where people are paying a cover to see an adult show.
Yeah.
What else? What more can I do to, and the warnings and everything I say on stage? But then there's still people that get upset, and they'll have their little reviews and get upset, protest, whatever. I've had it all. I've had death threats. I've been attacked.
Jesus. Well, I was going to ask, how do you approach writing stuff that is going to be controversial, which is essentially a lot of, if not most of, what you're approaching. But
right.
Especially with today being September 11th, I remember when we booked this interview, I was thinking, here's this taboo comic, and we book an interview on September 11th.
Right.
And one of my questions was going to be, have you ever done September 11th material? I saw some last night, like 5 minutes, and it was solid. It was not like belittling the tragedy.
No.
It was making fun of the fact that there's a gift shop in the freaking museum for 9/11, and it's like, let's make money on this now.
Right. What you're really... So the topic is 9/11. If you think there's nothing funny in there, then just don't come to my show.
Yeah.
Okay? The idea of 9/11 is horrible.
Of course.
But what the media has done with it and what marketing has done with it, there's lots of hypocrisy there.
Yeah.
And that's what you can make fun of. So whenever I approach any delicate topic or story, I either try to find, like you said, the innocents. Who's the underdog? I try not to punch down. I have punched down from time to time. I'm not going to lie about it. But I try to find some kind of underdog analysis. Like when I go after the Catholic Church, I'm pretty merciless.
That was great too.
And,
But it was all on point. It was all like, it made sense. You had valid fucking arguments.
Right. But, people, they come to a comedy show, they don't want to hear about the Catholic Church. Well, I'm sorry, you don't hire Metallica to sing Rita McNeil songs, and you don't hire Rita McNeil to sing Metallica songs.
I would love to hear both of those.
Of course they would. I'm on the same stage, they did Lady Gaga. Maybe? Why not Rita McNeil? But my point is, I can only do what I do.
Yeah.
And I can only soften the blow so much. I'm not one of these comics that like to punk audiences or piss people off. But if you come to my show and get upset and you try to stop the show from going on, then I get mad.
Yeah.
If you just didn't like it, you're like, oh, it's not for me, and just leave quietly, I'm down with that. You're not going to get your money back, but I'm okay with that. That's fine. Like I go to a restaurant, I order a steak, and I find out I don't like steak. That's not the restaurant's fault.
Yeah.
I just don't eat steak again or don't go to that place again.
Fair.
But people now want their feelings to be heard and felt.
But someone would try to take the steak analogy, one of these people at your shows that's being offended and being like, I bit into my steak and there was a piece of glass. Like,
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But I understand, and I completely agree with you, because I've even not necessarily specific to your comedy, but just comedy in general. I've always felt that way. It's an art form, first of all, but it's also one of the last sort of refuges for, being able to speak your mind, and you take risks when you do that. It's not like you don't fucking know.
It's freedom freedom of speech, but not freedom of consequence.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm a big proponent for that. So even though comics get into trouble, my attitude, and I've been in trouble, and I have to suck it up. I've done things that I'm not proud of, and I've done jokes, and I listen to my DVDs, and I go, ooh, that's not good. And if someone calls me on it, I'll be like, you know what? You're right. I'm 49 now. I'm not 39. I'm not 29, and I've grown as a person. Yeah. If you want to hate me because of that, there's not much I can do about it. I don't agree with that joke anymore, or I probably could have done it a little bit differently, so I didn't say certain words.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like there's only so much repercussion I can have to try to be a better human, a better comic. That's it.
Yeah, we're all growing. We're all learning.
Right.
And that's the best you can really hope from someone, as long as they're making those adjustments and trying to better themselves. Then, and your comedy is obviously still going, and I think you've learned a lot of things along the way, and you probably wouldn't go down certain paths again. And
what's really surprising is people are still, even though I put an Xrated sign and it's crazy, they still will come up to me and go, I didn't think it was that crazy. And I'm like, dude, I did 6 minutes on the Catholic Church that I know very few comics that have gone that far.
Yeah, they want you to shit on stage or something.
Okay, right.
People.
And
yeah.
I'm like, I just did that 9/11 joke, which is pretty harsh.
Yeah.
And then I did an 8-minute bit about a baby getting fucked to death by a dog.
Yeah, that was worse.
Don't know how much farther I can go than that without, like you said, like something so shocking.
Yeah.
Taking a shit, sacrificing an animal, that's just not me. I think the great thing about comedy is you can stamp your personality and what you want out there, and if people like it, great. And if they don't, what can I do?
Yeah, well, and things like the Catholic Church and 9/11, unless you're super, super directly affected, you're going to probably have a different view on those things, like if you're someone that wasn't affected at all. And unfortunately, things that happen in a very public way that affects the whole world or tons of people, it becomes sort of like public domain to a degree, especially after time passes. Like,
right.
You think anyone's going to give you shit if you do a Pearl Harbor joke now? You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like, where do you draw the line? When is it?
Right.
I've heard people do John Benet Ramsey jokes. So that was only the 90s or whatever. You
right.
know, like, where? When is it okay?
But also, it's the idea that, the Catholic Church is anti-Catholic Church. Okay? Those jokes are anti. So if you're even
and
assaulted,
boy molesting.
If you're molested by one, you don't want to hear those topics, but when you listen to the bit, you know that I'm defending you.
Of course, yeah.
I'm defending what they did to you,
people,
and
yeah.
I'm ashamed that happened for you.
Of course, yeah.
And you are the victim in this. Once again, the underdog that I'm defending in those bits. And, there's a lot of that, but people don't hear it. They are drunk, and they, like
I catch that one sentence.
One sentence, one thing. 9/11. There's nothing funny about that. Well, I can't argue with you. You either agree or disagree. Leave.
Yeah.
I once did a show in Calgary. And I'm one of the few Canadian comics that's very pro-Quebec in a lot of ways. Like a lot of comics like to get down on Quebec and that, and I'm not. I think it's great that they support their own and their own culture. And, I wish I was fucking French.
Where do you live normally, if I can
I live in Ontario, but I live in Barrie. Okay. But for years and decades, I wish my parents fucked near Los Angeles so I'd have a green card. And then after 99 and after Trump, my attitude is I wish my parents fucked in Montreal so I could speak French. I really do. I'm ashamed that I don't speak that language because I would love to perform there because they support their arts.
Montreal's amazing.
Dude. They support their arts, and it's like the same thing with the Aboriginal community. They support their own. There's comics that you don't even know and heard of. They do very well, and they're embraced by their community, and that's great. But there's only so much you can do, like to defend them. And then so I'm doing a Calgary show. I'm pro-Quebec, and at the show, this French woman comes up and she's hammered. It's terrible what you said. Terrible? What do you mean what I said? Oh, you made fun of the French. I said, no. I defended the French. No, you didn't. And I said, no, I did. And that's when her friend grabbed her and is like, she's drunk. She's just no idea. Now, all the bit was simply this. I go, we can make fun of, we can make fun of anything we want in Canada on stage. I can make fun of the French and you'll go fucking crazy. Anywhere else in Canada, Alberta, BC, if I make fun of the French, they go fucking nuts.
Yeah,
it's like a punching
distant
bag
from it. Yeah.
But if there's a guy in the front row in a wheelchair and I make a wheelchair joke, you will freak the fuck out.
Definitely, most people would. Yeah.
But I'm like, what if the guy in the wheelchair is French?
Good point.
I don't know if he's French.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to him. He's not wearing a beret and eating a jambon sandwich.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if he's French.
With a baguette, yeah.
Right? So my attitude is you make fun of everyone or you make fun of no one.
Yeah.
Why is it okay to make fun of the French and not this?
I've heard that argument before. I think it was from the guys who make South Park, where either everything is fair game or nothing is fair game. And it's such a valid point. Because who plays the judge and jury of friggin' drawing the line here or there, you know?
That's taste.
Sure, but that's subjective.
That's subjective, and what you like and I like is two different things. I don't go see 101 Dalmatians expecting a gangbang. And if you do,
go to see a gangbang expecting a heartwarming Disney movie.
Right. A bunch of puppies coming in.
Yeah. That'd be weird.
You know, but all I'm saying is, you know, I can't account for your taste. It's your job to account for your taste and make sure it aligns. I can't do anything more about it.
Yeah, well, people like to bring their own shit to shows and to events and whatever else. Just events in life, honestly. You know, you get those situations in any occupation where people bring their personal shit and they wear it like a suit, and then they expect everybody else to take it on as their problem.
Right.
And, you know, this is not how the freaking world works.
Right. And, you know, I used to teach classes and stuff, like one-day seminars, and I would always tell young comics, I'm like, if you're going to do a set and there's a joke about something and that person's in the audience, let's say I was going to do a little person joke or a joke about wheelchairs, and there's someone in the audience, if you don't do that joke, then you're doing that joke for the wrong reason. Yeah, if you will not do that joke in front of that group that you're making fun of,
your motivations are off.
Then your motivations are off.
That's interesting, yeah.
Because that means there's something about that joke you probably feel isn't right and you can be called on.
That's true.
Now, for me...
So refine it at that
I'm not telling you, oh, there's someone in a wheelchair, I'm going to do my wheelchair joke. I'm telling you, if you had planned on doing a set and these jokes, and you're changing it because of the audience, you're not doing the jokes for the right reasons. I've done all my wheelchair material in front of people in wheelchairs. They love it. They love the fact I don't coddle. They love the fact that it's not just making fun of their wheelchair. Yeah. There's a point of view outside of that. And it
they're still people. They still have sense of humor, you know? Like, case in point, we've had the third episode we ever did this show was a local comic. I don't know if you know him, Michael Lifshitz.
Of course I know Michael.
He's the greatest. And he's got not only is one of the nicest guys I've ever met.
Yes.
But he's got a great sense of humor about his own situation.
Yes.
And it's to be commended, in my opinion. Because
and he's dedicated.
Life is fucked. Everyone's going through fucked up shit. His arguably much more fucked up from a get-go than mine was, you know, like to be dealing with those sort of challenges.
Yeah.
But to be able to persevere and still laugh about it, to me, is the most beautiful thing ever. And it's something that should be, you know...
And it's unfortunately when he performs, it's the elephant in the room. That means he just has to discuss it for a second and then move on because everybody's going to be wondering.
Yeah. People love him. He won the competition a couple of years ago.
I'll tell you a story about Michael, and if you want to cut it out, that's fine. I did a tour with Greg Morton last year, who was
the Star Wars noises.
Yeah. He's a great comic.
He's amazing. Yeah.
And we did a big tour, and Michael came all the way from Ottawa to Barrie, which isn't easy for him, being in a wheelchair. He had to arrange all these fucking different connections to get all the way to Barrie. He gets to the venue like 3 hours early because that's the only way people in wheelchairs can do shit. You can't ask for a half an hour because the way this all is. I see him. I'm like, what are you doing here? I'm here to see Greg. I'm like, wait, you came all the way from Ottawa? Like, he's playing
Cornwall.
Cornwall.
Mad dedicated to comedy,
He
performing
plays
and
Cornwall
watching.
in a couple days. You could have just taken it. He's like, no, this is the date I could make, and I'm not going to not do it. And I'm like, you know what, man? Any way I can help you? I gave him a free USB. I got him personal time with Greg. We got photos, everything. Because my attitude is, here's a guy in a fucking wheelchair making an effort.
Yeah.
And I know able-bodied comics that'll fucking just sit there and bitch and complain. That's too far.
Oh, no, he's always positive.
Right.
I've never seen the dude in a bad mood.
Right.
And I've told this story, I'll say it briefly, but just how impressive of a dude he is, or like the things, the assumptions you make about people in those kinds of situations where we ran into each other at Loblaws in the parking lot at like, you know, late one night actually. And we had a great conversation. And then we were parked sort of equally away from each other. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cause he does drive his own van with some sort of modified setup, I'm assuming. And sure enough, like he fucking beats me to the light and makes it through and I don't. So I'm like, disabled my ass.
Yeah.
But no, Michael's amazing. What was I going to say? Oh, in Montreal, I wanted to get back to, though, just because I recently did a couple shows there, and it was like a rushing from one to the other thing. I got to open for Derek Seguin at the Nest, which was the first time I've ever been there, and it was really cool. But then we did this outdoor show, and that, to me, just showed how different Montreal is, because in Ottawa, we never would have been able to do that show.
Right.
It was 9:30 at night, arguably not that late, but people have kids. People have shit they can bitch about and call 311 or whatever bylaw is. And out there, it was the exact opposite. His neighbors, I don't know, maybe they know each other, but she was up on one of these little brownstone sort of fire escape balconies, and they were all just watching along. Oh, what's your YouTube? You know, like, so I'm not saying Ottawa's not a great place in its own right, but as far as that artistic culture, Montreal really does have some sort of an extra aura about it, you know?
Yeah, I mean...
Explains just for laughs.
Ottawa is a piece of white bread, and, you know, Montreal is the best falafel you ever had.
Yeah. That's actually better, yeah.
You know, because, like, I love Montreal. I don't play there anymore for political reasons and politics and show business, and we may get to that, but
okay, sure.
I don't play it anymore. But I love Montreal because it is still a very European town. People go out, like you said, they find ways for their kids to be so they still can go out. It's still a culture really built on that. There's still that kind of European flavor to it.
Definitely.
That they still go out. In Ottawa, you're always fighting. It's a government town. It's tough to go out. Only young people go out, and that's kind of what's been bred into this town. There is some truth to that.
Yeah.
Whereas every time I played Montreal, it was been great.
I've definitely been to concerts in Ottawa in my teen years or whatever, and been like, why am I the only one standing?
Right, yeah.
It's like a Chili Peppers concert with funky bass lines.
Yeah,
from
why are
Fleet.
we not dancing to this?
Yeah, exactly. So,
and if you went to Montreal, the whole front row would be fucking each other. You know, that's the difference. And then people would be all right with it. No one would call the cops. Yeah, they're fucking, but I'm watching the band.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care. Do whatever you want.
Well, the one thing I would say about Montreal I don't like, though, is the goddamn highways.
Well, I mean, they're
we
falling
walked
apart.
home from one of this show after, and it took us like way longer than it should have to get point A to point B because we had to go under an overpass, and there was no, like in Ottawa, it's kind of a grid system. You get around, you can cut the corner here, there, whatever. But Montreal, I found, is not like that at all.
Well, I think that's due to how old Montreal is versus Ottawa.
They keep building,
And it's building in a certain way. And also you've got the mob problem who took a lot of the restructuring money and didn't do the job. So you have that issue.
It's going to cut a couple corners.
Yeah, and then there's the whole Montreal where they're like, yeah, the roads are shit, but, we have beautiful women and we can smoke indoors.
Yeah, it adds character.
Yeah, adds character, They put emphasis on different things, and cool, I wish other parts of Canada would kind of look at that and not be like, oh, they're just friends. It's like there's certain things here we can take away from it.
Oh yeah,
and
I love
really use it to all of our advantages. But it's too divisive, Like Alberta will be like anti-Quebec, and Quebec's like, oh fuck those rednecks, It's just.
Well, doesn't part of the West want to like join the States or something?
Well, yeah, I mean they've talked about that
ridiculous.
for years.
I mean, I guess it makes sense with the cowboy connection from. Calgary and Texas.
Well, it made sense with a lot because Alberta felt with the oil money and all that stuff that they're really supporting more of the country than they're getting in return. And I don't know enough about that argument if it's true or not, but that's kind of what it was built on.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been out there, so I'm that naive Ontarian that I see the cowboy hats, and I can't help but think that's a little more of the stereotypical American, When I see a dude in a cowboy hat riding a bull or whatever.
Of course, because that's been inbred to you from every movie you watch since you were 12 years old.
Yeah, I'm from white bread town,
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about your roots a bit then. We'll go back in time here. So 92 you start out.
Yes.
But it sounds like around 96 you had that big shift where you decided to sort of switch your approach. And change your styling.
So I actually started in around 1990, 91, but I didn't really start getting serious about doing sets till 92.
Okay.
So what happened is I started out as a very happy-go-lucky, funny, kind of wacky comic. And I was heavily influenced by Emo Phillips at the time and Sam Kinison and Woody Allen. That's a 3-pack to try to wrap your head around. And then by 96, I started getting tired of being trapped inside so much of a character. And literally, there's only so many times you can go out west and be called the F word, faggot. They would literally yell that at me. Yeah. I don't like that word.
No,
I've never used it, but I have to tell you that's what they would yell at you because of the way I'm dressed.
Again, context.
Right. And my attitude is like, I don't dress for dudes. I would say that on stage, and all the women would cheer because the women loved the crazy outfits, and it's colorful. But every dude would be like, "Oh, it sucks. It's an idiot. You look an idiot." And in '96, I got tired because the problem is when you're in a character and you're killing, it's great. When you're in a character and you're bombing, it sucks because there's nowhere to go.
You're trapped in a character. Yeah.
You're in a funny outfit.
You had crazy pants or something.
Crazy pants, crazy T-shirt, wacky plaid,
zany.
Right.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go. You can't step out of that character and go, excuse me, fuckface? You can't. Because they're not going to take you serious.
Yeah.
It's like if they smell fear, they're not going to take you serious. So I started kind of, flipping in 96 to be more what I was and how I kind of act off stage, a more heightened version. And, I I had to shit can a whole bunch of material. And, I'm not bragging, but that material killed. Like, I was burying headliners all the time.
Oh, nice.
And
but it wasn't like scratching your personal itch that you wanted.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also believed in, even at that young age, I believed in a longevity, meaning I didn't want to be telling the same jokes at 31 that I was at 21.
That's a good goal to have.
Right? So my attitude is like, this funny pants shit can only last so long.
Yeah.
And
it's a bit of a shtick for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I ran with it, and I did well, but it's not creative. It didn't fulfill me artistically, and it wasn't doing what I wanted to do in the end. So I switched over, and I didn't do well in the beginning. It took a lot of learning and, doing some of the old material as an angrier version and kind of getting rid of material as I wrote new material. And then around 97, 98, I had a kind of full-on new style of what I would do, and that's kind of been that way since.
What this is just something I thought of now, but what was like the first joke you performed on stage that you considered taking it to like that upper echelon of just rowdiness or whatever you want to call it, next level offensive or whatever? Sort of your metamorphosis was complete,
I don't know. That's a good question. I've never been asked that question, but
it's hard, I guess. It was a while ago.
It's very, very hard. And this is another reason why every comedian should record their act, because like I listen to stuff now, like on my DVDs and album releases, I have no memory of writing those jokes.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, that's a pretty good joke that I wrote there. I'm surprised I wrote that joke.
Yeah.
So my memory isn't the greatest. I will tell you that the moment that it really turned for me is when I had my first boy, and he had severe heart problems. He had open heart surgery within 2 or 3 months of him being born.
Oh, no.
A lot of medical problems. And in the 2005 Nasty show at Just for Laughs, I had a couple bits that they censored me on. They took me outside and said, you can't do these bits anymore. It's too much for the Nasty show. And of course,
is a bit
it
of
wasn't
a ridiculous statement.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I don't play there anymore. But one of the bits was about my son, and I was proud of it. Like, it took me a long time to tell this story about one of my health problems with my son.
Yeah.
It was edgy, it was harsh, but it was on the right side of where I was supposed to be. And that's the first time I realized, fuck everyone else, including the industry. I'm going to do the jokes that I want to do.
Well, you're being extremely vulnerable at that point.
It was it was.
So for them to just write it off seems super offensive
and,
to you.
like, it was a great joke. It really was. And when I tell the joke now to people in cars, because they're like, tell me these 3 jokes that you got banned for.
Yeah.
They're like, that joke's hilarious. Why would they?
Can you indulge us or no?
No, I don't want to go I don't want to go
fair.
into it. Because to be honest, I couldn't really remember all the bits attached to it. So it would be kind of like, it'd be pretty good, but not as great
Not with
as it was
the proper
back then.
segues and
Right.
stuff. Yeah, okay.
But you're surprised at what the jokes they do leave in. Like I had a joke about it was my grandmother's 85th birthday. We didn't know how old she was until we counted the rings around her cunt. Okay? I'm not proud of that joke. It's a very easy joke. It's a nasty joke.
Like that's not, I could never tell that joke on stage, but it's still, I couldn't not laugh right there.
But my point is, I'm not going to fight you over that. If you tell me to replace that joke, I'm like, yeah, okay, because I'm not even that proud. Sometimes you have to do jokes to wake audiences up and to show them how shocking it can be, and you have an agenda. That's what that joke is for. It's a little bit of this. Now I can do what I want to do.
Jolt them, yeah.
Yeah. And, the bit about my kid is what I wanted to do. And they said no. And that's when I did a fork in the road of like, I'm done with the industry to a certain extent. And I'm also lucky that I do other things in the industry outside of comedy that pays my rent. And I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah, we will, definitely.
But that's when I made that decision. I'm like, I'm not a dancing monkey.
And when they start, micromanaging and picking and choosing.
So just so you understand, I submitted a tape, a 15-minute set, and the 3 bits that they asked me not to do were in that tape.
That's bullshit.
They watched the tape. They said the tape is great.
So that means they didn't watch the tape then, or they skimmed it or something?
Or they changed their mind, whatever.
Yeah, I guess.
And then they pulled me outside in front of Doug Stanhope.
How do you change your mind on 3, though? If it was 1, I'd say, that sounds valid. But that sounds to me like someone not doing their job and being like, yeah, we know he's good.
Right.
He's got a good rep.
Right.
Or whatever, and then they just push you through.
And their attitude is like,
them.
Get rid of these 3 jokes. And I'm like, these aren't 3 small grandma cunt jokes.
Yeah.
These are bits. So if I'm doing 15 minutes and I get rid of those 3 bits, I'm down to 7, 8 minutes now.
Yeah, exactly.
And their answer was like, oh, you can just do 7 minutes. I'm like, wait a second. Let me explain something. I've worked fucking really hard to get to this place.
Yeah.
Because I'm the first comic in this country. Mike Wilmot is dirty and amazing, but he's a dirty comic. He's not an edgy, cunty, asshole comic like I am. I've worked really hard to get all this to work for an average crowd.
Yeah.
And now you're asking me to take all that hard work and shit can it and do half the time when I've earned my fucking spot? Fuck you.
Yeah, that's just bad business.
Right.
Yeah.
And, the fallout from that is they eventually apologized months later, and they said they'd make it up to me, and they never did. But that's show business, whatever. But that's when I realized, for no festival past that point, am I dancing like a monkey. You either take it or you leave it.
Yeah, well, I think that's a fair argument. I mean, you can throw whatever analogy like you did with the steak or whatever, but the base of it is kind of like if someone is advertising themselves as a certain way and you accept or even encourage them to come be a part of your thing, and then they perform the way that they advertised, what's wrong with you? Like, you know.
My problem in my career, I've said it hundreds of times. What happens is people will tell me where the line is. A booker, a festival person, they'll tell me where the line is. I will go to that line, but I will not cross it. But then they get upset that they put the line here and they didn't put the line over here. But that's not on me.
No, not at all.
That's on them. But do you think they're going to blame themselves?
No, they're going to be pissed off because someone complained or whatever. Yeah.
I rest my case.
That's bananas. I don't know. I don't know how you deal with it.
But that's why I've had to, be a bit of a rogue, do my own DVDs and sell them after shows because the ceiling is a certain way. And
oh, yeah, you're a machine. That's one thing I was going to point out when you brought up JFL 2005. You did 22 shows, which was a record.
And that year,
what is that, in like a week or a weekend? Or
in like...
It's like 5 days or
7 days.
Okay,
something.
It's like a week, yeah. But still, that's a shit ton of shows.
Yeah, and I never returned.
Well, at least you left your mark. Epic drop.
And then, the story is a couple years later when, my agent contacts them. Their attitude was like, well, our idea is Darren didn't do that well. Well, let's also talk about something. I'm a cunt, okay? But I'm a cunt that always backs shit up.
Fair.
Okay? I have evidence. I have every single set I did that night and that week, those nasty show tapes. I have them.
You can speak
I can
to what
play
you're saying,
them.
yeah.
I can meet anytime back then. Now I don't know where they are. But for a good 10 years, I had them.
Cover
and I'm
your
like,
ass.
let's watch the tapes.
That's the smartest.
You tell me I suck. I still have people to this day come up to me and go, we saw you at the Nasty Show. You had the nastiest stuff of anyone. And I'm like, yeah, that's the point.
The goal, yeah.
That's the goal. Do I think I was the nastiest one on that show? Probably not. But for that person, I was. That lineup was Doug Stanhope, Jim Jeffries' first North American appearance, myself,
Stanhope, too,
Otto
yeah.
and George. Any of your fans should go and look up Otto and George, the dirtiest puppet
never heard
show
of him.
ever. Amazing.
Cool.
He's passed away, but there's lots of stuff on
Ottoin?
YouTube. Otto and George.
Oh, Otto and George.
O-T-T-O and George. Fucking amazing. And Bobby Slayton hosting. The band that was there, because they always have a live band, they literally said this is the nastiest show that they had ever seen.
Been a part of? Oh, man.
Because pound for pound, that's a lot of fucked up shit.
Is that show on film somewhere?
No.
No, that sucks. Lost to the ages.
Yep.
Damn, man.
I mean, I have some tapes, but...
It's funny when you say Emo Phillips, I can't not think of him instantly in that movie UHF.
Yeah,
like
he
sawing
was great.
all his fingers off.
Yeah.
Anyone who hasn't seen UHF,
Yeah.
I got to show my kids that movie, man. That's one
It's
of
a
those
great
classics.
movie. Weird Al Yankovic is finally getting the respect he's deserved.
Oh God,
for
he's a
30
legend.
years.
He's a legend, and Weird Al is like, 60 something now, and
Yeah.
he still pretty much looks the same for the
Yes.
last 20 years.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's had work done. Doesn't look like it.
Right.
But he's just such a nice person, man.
Yes.
And I read online the most messed up shit that both his parents died randomly in a carbon
Yes.
monoxide poisoning thing,
Yep.
and he's still out there trying to make people laugh. So, man, God
No,
bless
Weird
that
Al.
dude,
I met
you know?
Weird Al like decades ago, during a comedy festival, and it was around that UHF kind of wacky time.
Yeah.
So he was with a bunch of people, so he was kind of acting wacky. I get it. I just wanted to say, hey man, I think you're great. I probably was the 87th person to say it to him that day, so there was no connection.
Yeah.
But I think that he is such an example of what comedy should be, because I can't do that. But that doesn't mean I can't respect it. Like, I love Brian Regan because I can't do that.
Yeah.
Brent Budd is great. I don't do that.
They're very clean, yeah.
They're very clean, but that doesn't mean I don't
Or
like
George
clean
Wallace,
comedy.
man. I always say when people want to see some clean comedy, George Wallace is
George
amazing.
Wallace is great. Jeff Foxworthy is great.
Yeah, I mean, he's a
other
little
than the
hickish for my
redneck
liking,
shit,
but
which
yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of, but even if you listen to not that stuff, I used to call him the white Bill Cosby pre-rape. because he was that good at storytelling.
Yeah.
He got successful and famous on this thing, the redneck thing, but he was a better comic than that.
Yeah.
All these clean comics that are just amazing, I'm like, I don't do that. I love it.
You
I
still
love
respect
watching
it, yeah.
I can respect it. People always go, is clean comedy better than dirty comedy? And isn't dirty comedy easier? I always say the same thing. Neither is easy if you want to do it well.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want to look at comedy in a broad perspective, you can find great examples of tons of different styles.
Yes.
And they all are impressive if they're done correctly, like prop comedy, or I always find one-line comedians like Mitch Hedberg or Stephen Wright.
One-liner comedy, to me, I always divide comics into wordsmiths and non-wordsmiths. So I'm a non-wordsmith. What that means is every single word doesn't count when I do jokes.
More free flow kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to edit to make sure it's not too wordy, but I'm not sitting there going, is this word right and that word? If you're a one-liner comic, that's your whole world. Because you just want to get it down to does every word count towards the funny or take away from the funny? So if you love one-liner comedy, you definitely got to look up Stuart Francis. I don't know if you know Stuart Francis.
Never heard of him, no.
He's one of the world's best one-liner comics. He is Canadian.
Nice. I'll check it out.
Was world class. Nobody in Canada gave a fuck. He moved over to England. He ended up being Ricky Gervais's opening act, and then he plays theaters.
Wow.
And now he's retired because he did a big theater tour, and he was just kind of like, I'm done with it.
He's sitting pretty
but
now,
Stuart Francis is just as good as those other two comics you said.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I've already got such a massive respect for that version of doing comedy.
Once again, I don't do it. I've written a couple one-liners, that are funny and stuff, but...
Well, you said two things, and now I'm not sure where to go here, because part of me wants to... We'll get to the voice stuff after, because I do want to touch on that. Actually, no, let's just do that now, because I forgot the other thing. So
okay.
I wanted to talk to you about that, because I know... I was kind of taken aback when I saw that not only were you working on kids shows as a voice actor, but a lot of time like preschool age stuff.
Yes.
Which is, power to you. But
yes.
I wanted to ask, was there ever sort of conflict of interest episodes where you had a parent who found out what you did kind of in your dual life?
No, never. So far, not yet, but who knows? It could come.
Okay, well then let's follow up then. My follow-up question would be more, as a parent myself, I was wondering when you do such edgy material, has that ever worried you that maybe you're going to send the wrong message or that they might not get that needed context?
Right. So I have 3 children, okay? I have a 17-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 10-year-old.
Okay.
So I have to even consider this just within my own life of what I'm putting out there. And my attitude is there's adult things and there's children things. And if someone wants to go search for something, they're always going to find it. Are young children ever going to search for it? Probably not. Because what they have to do is they have to look up their favorite show. They have to look up their favorite character. They have to find my name. They have to put my name in Google and then find
or
something
IMDb
dirty.
Or something.
The chain there for young people, like little kids, it's just not going to happen.
Not going to happen, no.
But if you're a dad and you do that, yeah, it might happen. Are you going to tell your kids that this character says cunt on stage? That's your business, not mine.
Or I just have you ever been even sort of felt indirectly judged at like a parent-teacher meeting or like a PTA meeting or something?
No, it's never happened. No one's ever made that connection except one time. One time I was dropping my kids off at school, and this is literally probably, so my oldest was about 7 or 8, and I had another kid that was 5, so 2 kids at the school. And there was a grandmother there who I talked to every day. Really nice person. She dropped her grandkids off every day. And somehow she found out I was a stand-up comic. And up to that point, we were great. We talked about her kids and everything's great.
No, she won't make eye contact.
And then she watched a clip, and it's not that she wouldn't make eye contact. She would still say hi, but it really did change.
The tone was just totally
The tone was
shifted.
different.
Oh, that sucks.
But, that's fine.
That happened. If it only happened once, then there you go.
Yeah, I mean, and even if it happened all the time, that's fine. I've chosen.
It's the reality you live in, yeah.
I've chosen to do this. I've actually lost more money doing the kind of comedy I do than I've made.
That's dedication to your craft, man.
So you have to make a decision a long time ago. Am I chasing money? I need money. I got to pay my rent. I'm not an idiot. But am I going to chase money, or is it not going to be the biggest factor in what I do?
Yeah.
And I chose for it to not be the biggest factor. I still a factor.
As long as you're paying the bills.
I still got to pay my rent. I've never lived for, I want to be a superstar. If I can live a lower middle class life with the amount of free time I have to see my kids and be a good husband and stay married and not have to tour all the time. That was more important for me.
Sounds like the right choice.
Well, in the long run, it is. In your 20s, you don't think that way. I'm 49. I'm glad I made that choice, and I made the right choice.
I'm sure you will be when you're 79.
Right.
Too. Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah. So you've done lots of voice work in, I recognize some of these shows that my kids watch, like George Shrinks and.
So that was just a one-off. I did one episode.
Timothy Goes to School.
Timothy Goes to School. That was a huge one.
And are you in Bakugan?
Bakugan. I played a couple bad guys throughout that, and then the recent Bakugan, I play a character called Cubbo, so it's out there right now.
Is that sweet work? I've always wanted to do voiceover work.
Voiceover is the best work in show business.
Do it at home? Or do you send
Right now I do, yeah.
Yeah, you send it in?
Yeah, like I have a system, not like this, but I have 2 different microphones. I have a Shield. I have a little studio. I have a laptop and a interface, and I do it myself.
So you're with Actra or something then?
Yeah.
Or? Okay, cool. Yeah, I haven't taken the plunge. We haven't gotten any representation, but that's kind of the next step I'm aiming towards is
Ottawa's I don't know what it's like since COVID, but Ottawa's always had a strong animation base. I mean, they have that animation.
Big
and someone
jump.
else asked me from Ottawa, what should I do? And I told them, go and volunteer at that festival.
Yeah.
And then get to know who are making
Mingle,
cartoons. And then maybe do a couple non-union cartoons, because that's how it works. You got to get a reel together and get some work, and then eventually you get in. That's one of the ways you get in. I love cartoons because first of all, it hasn't bled over to me being the devil comic. They do see it as apples and oranges so far,
nice,
which I'm happy about. And I have 3 voices, maybe 3 or 4 voices that I do. The average cartoon person has like a repertoire of 20 or 30.
Yeah, like Hank Azaria or somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And they're the leads in all these big shows. And what I'm good at is these 2 or 3 characters that are characters that always show up in cartoons on a regular basis. But the big guns aren't going after those voices.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of fat left on that bone that I'm taking, and I'm happy to take it.
Why not? Yeah.
Because,
what kind of voices are they? I always
play the bully, the angry guy, or the kind of nerdy guy, or the kind of timid guy. Those are the 4 voices.
Do you do a lot of modification to your voice, or do you just
but sometimes it's very much in my kind of wheelhouse.
I honestly want to hear like your weirdest voice.
So, I do a show right now called Ranger Rob. It's only second like Paw Patrol and
nice.
North America. It's huge. Yeah. And I play a Yeti, a white Yeti, and my voice is just a little higher pitched like this. That's what my voice is.
That sounds like a cartoon.
And that's a cartoon. And then for Bakugan, it was much more, hey, you're going down, man.
Yeah, like that's very bullyish.
So it's different, and the bully's like, yeah, you're an idiot, that kind of stuff.
Nelson Muntz kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Right on.
And as long as it keeps paying my rent, I'll keep doing it.
A lot of other shit I want to ask you about. Once I wanted to touch on your commercial work because I recognized a lot of them from the late '90s, early 2000s when I was kind of in high school.
Yes.
One I think my dad would remember. You remember there was a Molson commercial where they played that song "Ring My Bell." Yeah,
Constantly.
So he was in that. I don't know. I saw a still and it was like nostalgia flashback.
Yeah.
And what was the other one?
So I was the Listerine bottle.
Yeah, that's the one I wanted to talk to you about. The Listerine dude, Dad. He was like the superhero.
Giant Listerine bottle.
With a cape, and he wore the big bottle and all that. And you had an action figure made of you?
They made a bobblehead of me, yep.
That's super cool. Do you have that at your place?
No,
guessing?
they would not give me one.
What?
Yeah.
That's brutal.
I know.
Why? There was like limited quantity or something?
I have no idea. You ask for it, they either get it to you or they don't.
That's a dick move.
What happened there? So the exact opposite to the cartoon world is the commercial world. So it is important that I don't go on stage and scream cunt in the commercial world. Because what will happen is
Canadian Tire's not going to be too fond
Well,
of that.
Dear Pfizer, your mascot called me a cunt. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Or he said this horrible joke about 9/11. It's going to happen. So we live in a world where it's people's jobs to Google names. So what happened is I did like 40 commercials in like 3 years. And this is before Google was massive, right?
Okay.
And then it started catching up to me. They started going, well, we're not that happy that you're doing this stand-up thing. And my agent called me at the time. I have a different one now, but at the time. And they're like, have you thought about maybe not doing? I said, listen, let's get one thing clear. Everything I do funds my ability to do stand-up comedy.
That's
it.
Utmost.
Okay? That doesn't mean I don't enjoy it. I don't have fun with it. I don't respect it, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But everything I do funds my ability to do this.
But when people start recognizing you, I get where people would maybe have some apprehensions.
Right. So if they don't like it, I just don't have to do commercials anymore. And that's pretty much what happened.
Draw your line in the sand, yeah.
And Also, what happened is this one commercial, they wanted me to close my website down and do all this stuff, and it was a $3,000 commercial. Now, don't get me wrong, $3,000 is a lot of money.
Good coin, yeah.
Good coin. But to shit kick something I've worked for 20 years on.
Yeah, shutting down your website, that's bullshit.
And everything like that. For a little gig for $3,000 where it's only going to air for 13 weeks. I'm only in it for 2 seconds. You might not even recognize me.
Yeah.
Like this is with me. And once again, I have to make a decision. I'm not willing to shut this down.
Yeah. You couldn't have sort of haggled with them and said, I'll suspend it until the airings stop or no?
No, because to me, once you start giving
they'll
an
just
inch.
find another guy. Yeah. Fair
because
enough.
you know what? At the end of the day, a tie goes to the person who doesn't do what I do. And they'll find someone. No, I'm pretty good. I'm not amazing. They'll find another pretty good guy.
Yeah.
It's just there's so many people out there that are willing to do it. And most commercial actors, you ever talk to them in the beginning, it's great. You get used to the money and that. And then you start realizing you don't get treated that well on set. And they start treating you kind of not the greatest and shitty. And then you start going, you know what? The money's not worth it. And then you start going, I'm going to say something about it. And then when you're treated shitty and you say something, they're like, you're hard to work with. So all this timeline was actually happening at the same time.
Get that reputation.
So I was like, you know what? Why fight this? Just, I had a good run. Find some other fat guy. And they did.
Shit, man. Yeah, that's pretty rough.
Well,
but
I
at
mean,
least
I was in the last Seinfeld. The last Seinfeld episode, I was the giant Belle Dime.
Oh, shit.
Which aired right across Canada. Like,
Damn, nice.
Probably that was my most famous one because it aired during the last
And not
Seinfeld.
everyone loved the finale, but...
Right.
It was
But
a little
everyone
bit of
watched it.
controversial as far
But
as...
everyone
Yeah,
watched it.
for sure. It was massive. They did it on the Times Square gigantic TV or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, I wanted... Actually, you touched on the website because I wanted to tell people to just go check out your website. It doesn't look like you're that active on it, but the stuff that's on there is gold. Like,
Yeah,
every
I mean, I got to
little-
get better. Yeah.
No, but I actually appreciate your attention to detail because you show every commercial you were in.
Yeah.
Sure, that's one thing. But you write this hilarious blurb
Yeah.
for each one that literally I was laughing my ass off by myself.
And you know what? It's funny because, I keep going to my website. I barely add much to it. And then I'll just get off track and I'll look at something. I'm like, this is a pretty funny breakdown
funny.
of all the
It's
commercials.
really funny
and I'm
to
like,
just
I
read
don't
through.
remember writing this. I can see it's in my style, but I'm like, this is some pretty funny shit. And my blog is pretty funny, and I pull no punches. Like,
Well, and I wanted to get to the stand-up section where you actually list like your 10 worst stand-up gigs.
yes,
Just
yes, that
like,
needs updating, but yeah.
I'll paraphrase the bit here, but it's basically like, band.
Yes.
This is the first one where some lady said she was going to stab me, and she definitely meant it.
Yes.
This is the first one where I was threatened to kill myself, and people cheered.
Yes.
Like,
I've threatened to kill myself many
and
times
so
on
forth.
stage.
You know what I mean? It was quite the laugh. But then you actually did a write-up on the first one, the Niagara gig. And
Yes.
if you can please just tell that story now in some
Sure.
capacity, I would
Sure.
really appreciate it.
So Niagara College, obviously in the Niagara area, Niagara Lake, it was a weekly gig, and it was on a Wednesday night. And not to get too inside the business, but a gig on a Wednesday night's important because it's a night you normally don't work. So you're like, oh, great, it doesn't affect my weekend.
Extra
this is an
cash.
important gig.
Yeah.
You don't want to fuck this gig up. No matter what kind of artist you are, you kind of take this thing where it's like you don't want to do anything to fuck it up. So you go to this gig, you just want to try to keep the gig, At the time, this was a very rowdy college. They would get them all to stand up and sing "O Canada" before the show and get them all riled up and then sit down and, okay, have focus. Not a good idea.
I was going to say, singing "O Canada" is not round.
Not a good idea. But, the guy who booked it was a super cool guy, and he treated comics like gold. So people still was willing to put up with some things and still think it was a fun gig. So I was on stage, and this team of rugby players was at the back, and they were heckling me. Now, not to get too much into the story, I know we have a little bit of time, but I don't know if you have enough time.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I had taken the gig as a favor because the headliner didn't have a ride. And I would normally headline this gig, but the agent called me, will you do me a favor? Nobody else will work with this guy because he's not well-liked. Will you drive him? And at that time, I had no problem with the guy. Will you do me a favor? Just do this gig. Will you open for him? Normally, I wouldn't at this time open, but I'm like, you know what? Fine. It's Wednesday. I'm not working. Like I said, fine. So we go there. This guy loves this gig. It's his favorite gig because he's on the road and he's got a Wednesday night and they give him a free bar. He's fucking loving it. So I know this gig's important to him. I know this gig's important to him. So I really don't want to fuck this up. As much as I love to be like, I'm the devil, there's sometimes I don't want to fuck it up. I get on stage. This crowd is fucking shit. I'm not making a lot of money. I'm opening. And I'm like, I'm trying my best to get through this, and they won't shut up. They just keep heckling me. And I'm like, you know what? Just shut up. I try to do another joke. Heckle. Dude, I'm warning you.
Just chirping you.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I've been nice so far. You have no idea what I normally do. And this is another problem with crowds. They have no idea the jokes I'm not doing. Fuck you. Fuck me? Listen to me, buddy. You keep talking, I'm going to take all my clothes off. I'm going to jump off this stage. I'm going to jump on you and I'm going to rub my ass all over you. Okay? And he goes, you don't have the balls. I go, I don't have the balls. Now you're going to fucking see the balls. And I dink. The crowd's like, what the fuck's going on? I take every piece of my clothing off. I cut my bag. I dove off the stage. And it's plastic chairs and tables. They part like the Red Sea. Kids are screaming. Ah! Okay, I'm surprised I didn't get arrested because I'm naked.
Yeah.
I run to the table. The guy lipping off runs out the back like a screaming little girl. Ah! Like this. And this other guy sitting there going, you're a fucking idiot to me. I'm a fucking idiot. You're a fucking idiot. So I jump up on his shoulder and rub my ass. I grind my asshole into his shirt.
Oh, so gross.
And now he's like, get me off, dude. Get off, dude. Like this. And I get off and I go back on stage. And I'm cut my bag. I'm sitting there, and I'm making $200 fucking dollars for this. Hey, pay me $800. I'm a comedy whore. I'll fucking play along. But for $200, you don't treat daddy like this. Fuck you, kids. So I've got this microphone. I'm looking around. I'm not saying anything, and I go, how many people want me to put my clothes back on? Yes, put your clothes back on. Yes. I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm not putting my clothes back on. So I do the rest of my set naked.
Jesus. How long was that?
Around. I had another 8 minutes maybe.
Oh my God.
And then
just
at around 6 minutes, I start dressing myself. And for the last line, I'm like, eh. And there's just silence.
Wait, so the last line you uncupped and went?
No, like my last line, I'm dressed. And the last line I just say.
Oh, you put it, okay.
I got back dressed. Do the last line. Silence. I'm like, okay, listen. Now, I'm sure the headliner's not happy about this, but it's a shitty crowd. I go, listen. And I gave this guy the best fucking intro I've given in 30 years of comedy. I said, look, I fucking hate you kids. But I just spent 90 minutes in a car with your headliner, and he told me over and over again that this is his favorite college in all of Canada.
Oh, so you set it back up at least.
Okay? And they're like, oh, yeah. He literally said he won't come out here unless he gets Niagara College, which he did tell me. He really likes playing this club or this college. And I'm like, so you can fucking hate me, but this guy wants to perform for you fucking people. So give him some respect.
See, this is what I mean. I knew you had like a soft, melty inner core.
Well,
you know?
I'm not here to fuck it up.
No, you're not a bad dude. It's very obvious if you watch
so
your material.
he gets a big cheer, and he goes on. And he does well. He doesn't bomb. He doesn't kill, but he was never going to kill. I've done it enough at this point to know this crowd was never going to kill.
Didn't you say it was like the worst club in Canada or something? Or the worst place to perform?
It was shitty. It was shitty.
Yeah.
And this night was shitty. And I know it was shitty. And he did really well. And then on the ride home, he was like, oh, man, that was like some fucking Andy Kaufman shit. I'm like, no, it wasn't. I don't think you know who Andy Kaufman is. He wouldn't have gotten naked. He's gotten it wrong. But anyways, and then the shit hit the fan. Like the Monday morning or no, the Thursday morning, just fucking emails and you fucked up this gig and all this.
Emails in 99 were pretty serious.
Yeah, and phone calls from agents and you fucked this gig up. And I'm like, look, this is what happened. Don't want to pay me, don't pay me. I'm pretty sure they paid me. And I was banned. And then I've been banned from Brock University. I went to Brock. And they fucfucking banned me.
You're alumni? That's hilarious.
I'm alumni.
Oh,
and they fucking banned me. Because I'll tell you why. Another good story. You can edit out if you want to.
No.
I'm also opening.
Dude, I'm not going to edit out the first 40 cunts, so we're not stopping here.
I'm opening for a friend of mine at Brock. I'm a Brock graduate. This is only in the first 5 or 6 years of my career. You think, hey, go to the Brock paper. There's a paper. Brock kid does good, right?
Yeah.
Not a fucking rocket science. So I walk in with the guy, and there's, these fucking nerdy-looking newspaper university students, like they always are, long hair, just kind of...
blazer on or something.
Yeah, like nothing, bad attitude. And they're like, yeah, what do you want? Or can I help you? And I go, I'm just wondering, do you ever do shows about the comics that come here? No. And I'm like, all right, that was a mistake. And I fucking walk out. And so the other guy stays, and the guy's like, what's his problem? He said, well, he went to Brock. He just thinks, Brock kid does good. And so I go to the gig. It's in the bar, which is in the same building. And I say to the manager, who was the acting manager of the night, I said, listen, I just went to the Brock Press. They treated me like a fucking douchebag. They gave me attitude. And he's like, I know, man. They never do any articles about the shows. We're paying top dollars for these shows, and they're not even telling the kids they're on. Like, there's people on this campus on res who have no idea these shows are going on. I go, do you mind if I say something? Like, can I on stage? He goes, oh, fuck yeah, man, do it. I'm like, okay, great. So I go on. I do well. I bring up the headliner. He does well. Then I go back on, and I've got a beer bottle. And it's on the stage. Like, there's a beer bottle on the stage on the front. And I go, just have a hand for your headliner. Listen, folks, I just want to let you know something. These guys are trying at this bar to bring you entertainment. And every week, the Brock Press never does any articles about the comics here. Because there's only 20 people in this Thunderdome place. Yeah. Like, the residence has thousands. It's all free. Like, it's free to come to the show. It should be packed, right? And I'm like, so this is literally not that long after Sinead O'Connor ripped the Pope picture. Oh, yeah. On so SNL, I took a copy of the Brock Press and I go, stop the insanity. And I ripped it in half. And the kids all stood up and cheered. Like, oh, yeah, fuck. Because they got it, right? Yeah. And I kicked the beer bottle off stage and I walked off, right? The guy who's managing was all fine with it. Everything was cool. I get home. The next morning, my agent called me. What the fuck did you do? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm going to send you an email. Well, it turns out that the Brock Press went to the show. Oh, shit. Heard what I said and was fucking pissed. But the manager was just an acting manager, not the actual manager, because this is a quieter night, right? So
the main dude
The main manager is pissed. And they wrote this long thing. And I keep everything in my career. This is one of the only two things I never kept. And I still regret not keeping this. Wrote this long email. I'm banned. I'm not allowed on the property. Blah, blah, blah.
We're revoking your diploma.
No, they don't know I went there yet.
Oh, okay.
And I wrote this long message back pretty much going, fuck you. I went there. If you keep this ban going, I'm showing up with a fucking screwdriver and I'm taking down every picture of me in any hallway or the grad collective photo that's fucking coming down. I'll bring my fucked up friends and we will do fucked up shit. Then all of a sudden when they found out I was alumni, they're like, oh, well, hey, it's not that bad. I'm like, oh, that matters now? That's what I hate. It shouldn't matter. Yeah. It's like I used to do jokes about cancer, and once I got cancer, I didn't do jokes anymore about cancer because I never wanted to have I have cancer. Oh, it's okay then. Everyone's got someone affected by cancer. Yeah, it's not a get out of jail free card. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and the shit hit the fan, and then 6 months later, they asked me to come back. And I sent them an email. I said, I will only come back if you pay me.
Obviously.
And you agree that I can say whatever I want on stage. If I want to jump up and down and scream motherfucker for 45 minutes, I will scream motherfucker for 45 minutes and you will pay me.
And they said yes?
And they said yes.
Oh, man, that's amazing.
I went back. I did a great show. I didn't scream motherfucker for 45 minutes.
Nice.
Because that's not the audience's fault. They deserve the show.
You set your parameters at least just so that,
Right.
You had ultimate wiggle room.
Right.
Yeah.
Did a great show. They all were happy with it. Manager's happy with it. I'm his best friend. Never went back.
Shit. That's a story.
Yeah.
Damn, man. Well, you always stick to your guns, and that's commendable. Well,
somewhat.
You know what, man? I'm going to ask you the one question to end things off that we've been asking everybody this season.
Sure.
Which is, if you could be endowed with a superpower, what would it be and why? And flying's not on the table because it's just an obvious go-to,
Time travel, and I would go back to when I was age 18, and I would become a plumber and never set foot on stage.
Really?
Yeah.
For someone who's so dedicated to sticking to their guns, that seems like the opposite of us.
Because it's 30 years of filling a hole that never fills.
Instead of unclogging a hole.
So, the state, I still love comedy, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But up until 10, 15 years ago, it was my whole world, everything. And then, not to be cheesy, I met my wife. My life outside of comedy now is way more important to me than comedy. Now, it's a joke, the time machine thing. Because if I didn't get into comedy, I never would have met my wife. I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah, that's the time machine thing. You always risk fucking up.
Right. I would never have met my wife, and then I wouldn't be happy. But even though I play on stage, I'm the angry guy, and I'm cursed and everything, my life is pretty beautiful because of my life outside of comedy. So, superpower, time machine, go back to 18, get a trade. So when COVID fucks everything up, I'd be able to at least unclog toilets for a living.
Well, there's some...
Show?
What?
Did you meet your wife at a show?
I did not meet my wife at a show, but a funny story there is she was my neighbor in Toronto for 2 years, and her kitchen looked into my bedroom, and I spent so much time on the internet, jacking off to weird things and having slaves in Texas do crazy things to themselves that they would make fun of me in their kitchen because they'd look in and look, he's on his computer, leave for 3 hours, come back, he's still on his computer. And then 2 years later, I was talking to a girl, and she's like, oh, I live in Sudbury. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I play Sudbury all the time. I used to live in Toronto. I used to live in the Annex. I live in the Annex. I used to live on this street. I live on that street. I used to live at this address, 419 or 421. I go live at 419. And she's like, oh, my God, you're the guy. I'm like, what guy? You're the guy we used to make fun of. And I'm like, oh, yeah, when I used to jack off to all that crazy stuff. Yeah, that was me.
Wow, so
and then
romantic.
she gave me her roommate's name, and I sent her an email saying I'm the guy I used to make fun of. And then we had a drink like 3 days later, and that's the woman I married.
Now it's that funny story you tell.
Married her, and,
So you've been at it for a while now, marriage?
I have been married for 16 years.
Hey, that's a good run, man.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear you're happy. It sounds like you beat cancer. I didn't even know you had a cancer.
I did beat cancer so far, yeah.
Kudos on that. Congrats, man. Good to have you
You
around.
didn't watch the cancer video?
I did not.
Oh, that's my second
I
most
binged,
watched
like
video.
a 45-minute set. I wanted to watch a whole set,
But the cancer video is even more
I saw it in the feed.
awkward than the assault video, if you can imagine.
Yeah, I don't know that I can, but I'm definitely going to check it out now. Shit, man. Thanks again for stopping by.
Thanks,
It's been
I
really
appreciate
interesting, and I really appreciate your perspective on all this, man.
Thanks, man.
So we used to do high fives. Now we just do jail hands like this.
Okay, jail hands. All right.
Right on, man. Play me on the arcade, if you will. And see you later, guys.
Cheers.
Let's do a cunt for the road.
Oh, cunt. Cunt Lee. LY makes it better. Softer. For your kids.
Oh, man.